Call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have a public hearing for Salt River Farm, Joan Riddle, map R6, lot 24, located at 477 Wiscasset Road. Renewal of special amusement permit Class C.
Special amusement permits are generally pretty easy renewal, so the town doesn't have any comment in regards to this one.
Went well last year, I assume?
Yes, it did. It was just a rental, and it was very clean, fun. They were out of there early. Anticipate the same type of things.
Scott, I did notice in the application you said you may have another one later on in the year.
Yes, they were working on another one, maybe August 3rd. As soon as that. The trucks haven't been quite in a row yet, but that may be another one. And then I may do something else this fall.
Are you looking to come back, or do you want to combine the two into the one application?
August 3rd, you would make it.
You would make it, yeah, right.
Our special amusement permit is an annual permit. You can have 3 events within that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he doesn't
right.
need to, but if you wanted to
That's
say
right. Now.
notice requirement to the town, you know, like if you expand on this, you need to notify the town in X amount of days. That's
So
fair.
that one fee covers up to
That's
3.
what, yeah, that's what it said.
Works out well.
Because I know last year when you came before us, it was for a single event. And if it's a
Right.
renewal, that would be for a single event. So
Right.
that's why I'm saying if you wanted to expand it to more, this is the time to look at it.
All right, well, let's expand it to August 3rd then too.
Okay.
That's what we have to do.
Or you might want to do that in the fall.
And I may want to do one in the fall too, yeah. I haven't got a date on that. but-
The only thing we'd ask is to let the town know if you're going to have them.
Okay.
I mean, just let Jim know, so if there's anybody that knows what's going on, it's been permitted anyways.
Yep.
I just want you covered, Scott, so you don't have to keep.
No, and I want to be too. That's why we're all here.
Yeah.
Was there a motion on that?
Yep.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant the special amusement permit for Salt River Farms. Any more discussion? Any more public comment?
Was that for 3?
Yes,
Yes.
with notification to the town as to the dates of the other 2. All those in favor? Done. Have fun. Next, we have Richard Perkins, Chairman of the Board of Appeals, for the appointment reconsideration. We all have his email.
Yep.
Well, as I understand, in the last meeting, the nomination for Scott came out for the Board of Appeals. It was brought up, and nobody seconded it, and dropped there. As chairman, I always want to say Scott's been a superb member. He's been very prepared in all the years he's done service here. Volunteers to do these kind of jobs are hard to come by. And I think that if you have an issue with Scott serving on the Board of Appeals, that you need to bring it up and talk to him and not just drop it on the table like that. We ask you to reconsider it. If you do have a situation, that's your prerogative, if you do have a situation that you wanted to address with him, but I think you should address it, not just drop it like that. Thank you.
Since the last meeting, I representing myself, have gone to see Scott. I don't know, because a very good conversation with him. I wished I'd have done that beforehand, but I didn't. But I apologize for that.
Just to address what you're asking for, it's difficult because you don't want to, no, I don't think any of us here are looking for a performance evaluation or something to that effect. We're not looking to criticize or, sometimes it's tough. We're not really, as a rule, supposed to communicate or talk with anybody. So when an appointment comes up, you have to use it upon your own decision at that moment in time. If you feel good or bad or comfortable or not comfortable with making that appointment, it's very difficult at times. I'll be the first one to admit it. But that being said, I think all of us that didn't, and I shouldn't say that, I can't speak for any of the above, but for the rest of us that didn't make the second on the appointment, there was hesitance for whatever their reasons may be. Scott asked to chat with me last night after the Board of Appeals meeting. We did. I feel much more comfortable tonight than I would have prior to. Same as Steve Lewis. I'll be the first one to admit if I do something wrong. I don't think I necessarily did anything wrong by not making the appointment. My gut told me that I didn't second that for a reason. But I feel much more comfortable after our discussion with Scott. And mind you, one of the things that's probably the most pressing or most influential to me is that the entire Board of Appeals came out on his behalf and spoke up for him, and that speaks volumes as far as I'm concerned. So I think, and I suspect it will be reconsidered tonight, my guess is the tables will turn a little bit. But I won't regret or won't apologize for my actions. I did what I did because that's what I felt like I needed to do at the time.
I sat on to that Board of Appeals meeting when you had that, and Scott was going through all his stuff, and I really didn't appreciate what he was doing to the board. I mean, here we have a lawsuit pending against us on account of that. So I just can't feel I can support it. So.
May I address the board?
Absolutely.
May I address the board?
Just state your name.
Scott Adams.
See.
First of all, I appreciate having had the ability to talk to most of you. I wasn't able to talk to Stan. I have served on that board for 9 years. I think in that time I missed one meeting. I always try to come prepared. I always try to ask questions that are pertinent. I appreciate your view of what happened at that board meeting. However, that board meeting was decided by the vote of every single person on the board. I was asking difficult questions because I'm a lawyer. I'm trained to ask difficult questions. I'm also a cynic in that I don't take anything that anybody says at face value. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be doing my job for the people of the town. I may be brusquer than some others, but I've never raised my voice at any one of those meetings. I have never sworn at any one of those meetings. I have always given them the respect that a professional deserves or an individual in the audience. But I am forthright, I am candid, and I am sometimes brusque and pointed. You don't appreciate that at the meeting that you talked about, but the meeting was decided by all 5 members, every one of us asking difficult questions. And I took the lead because we were being threatened by a lawsuit. And we're not being threatened by a lawsuit, Mr. Burnham, because of the actions of the board. We are not. And if you really believe that, then you have some learning to do. We're being threatened by a lawsuit because that's an intimidation factor. So we're doing our job on the board. I am playing a major role in it because I feel that's my responsibility as a lawyer. But every single decision we make up there is generally unanimous. Over the last 24 years since coming to town, I've seen 5 significant errors in what I consider the legal representation of this town by the law firm. So I'm critical of the law firm. I can name those 5 errors if you wish me to, but the most recent of which is why we are dealing with this today. The FCC law that we've been told we have to consider was done in 1996. The majority of cases in Maine that have decided aspects of that were between 2000 and 2002. We started our ordinances in 2000. The last one was about 3 or 4 years ago. We've been changing them all along. It's hard for me to believe that with a law firm like this, with a law that's been in since 1996, we have never had it mentioned to us with regard to cell towers. And our ordinance is an absolute as far as precluding cell towers in residential areas. You gotta understand, I'm a tax lawyer. To me, that's like telling somebody 10 years after the tax law changed that, oh, by the way, the tax law changed. It would have been very simple, and it will be very simple, to put something in our laws that say that the planning board can consider cell towers so that they can do all kinds of things that benefit the town by conditioning the leases, by putting other restrictions on it. Board of Appeals is not the place to do it. So I was very critical at that meeting of the legal advice we were getting, because for 24 years, I've seen major incidences when this law firm has misled the people, ill-represented them and misled them, the people and its elected representatives, in 5 very particular articles. Another one that's most recent is the fact that they bunched all these last changes into one vote, so that if you didn't like one part of it, you voted it against it. How much did that cost to redo that again? I am cynical of everybody because that's my training. I represent the board in that sense, in that I bring those types of things up that maybe somebody else doesn't. If you don't like my manner, I can understand that. But I have never, ever been rude, disrespectful, or argumentative or angry with anybody in those meetings. I know you think that, but nobody else on the planning board does. So I would like to re-serve. I'd like to continue to serve. I think I do a good job. I think I represent the people, which is what I'm supposed to be there. I represent your best interest as well. And I would like to be reappointed, and I ask for that honor. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No other comments?
I just like, I've only been on the board for a year and a half, okay? In the last couple, 3 years, I've seen appointments on the planning board, 2 people not get it. Scott, coming here and volunteering to do this, and then worry every year that you're gonna not be reappointed because you upset somebody, it makes it very hard to do your job and consider it. It's, in our opinion, the way we take this stuff on, and if our opinion tells us to do one thing and we vote it and it doesn't set well with somebody else, and then come June, we're not reappointed, that's kind of like an awful lot of pressure on every one of us in the planning board or in the Board of Appeals and stuff. We're trying to work as a board together, and like Scott says, the decision was made by everybody. It doesn't look well for trying to get people to volunteer to do something if you watch that happen. I mean, I would be very reluctant to do it.
I think I have to respond to that as much as good sense tells me to keep my mouth shut. But I never really listen to good sense anyway. It is tough. It's tough. It's not easy for us up here to make or not make those appointments as well. And they never come lightly. They never come easily. We're the ones that everybody generally comes to. We're the gripe squad, I guess you could say. And we hear about it not only from necessarily other board members, but certainly we do hear about from other board members. We hear from the public. We hear from the people that are dealing with those members of boards. We have to make a decision. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying it's always right. I'm not, just like tonight, I'll be the first one to tell you if I do it wrong, but we're still up here as elected officials trying to make the best judgments we can make too. I'm not saying, we want people to volunteer. We want people to be engaged. I told Scott last night, it's really quite difficult to find somebody who's as engaged or as enthusiastic as he. It's not, I also told him truthfully that when I walked out of not making that second motion, I walked out of it with a gut wrench and not knowing if I made the right decision or not. It's kind of nice that we're having an opportunity to come back and revisit the issue without having it be a dead issue that we can't revisit. Because making a mistake like not making an appointment or voting against an appointment and then it's dead, and then find out a week or 2 weeks down the road that misinformation or was completely wrong, that would be very unjust as well. I don't like not appointing, but we're up here as the voice of the community. And if I get enough voices telling me I need to consider something, I need to consider something. I might be wrong, and in this particular instance, I think I am. But, it's not easy up here either. I understand exactly what you're saying, Mark. I really, truly do. But you have...
It feels like there's a lot of pressure on you, if all of a sudden the decision that we make goes the wrong way towards public opinion or something. It's like, okay, see you later,
Well, if my voices goes the wrong way against public opinion, I won't be elected next time, I can guarantee you. And that's okay. I mean, I make and break by the decisions I make up here, and if they don't vote me in, that's perfectly fine. I'm gonna go home that night and get a good night's sleep and have 3 years off, and that's fine. But it's the same up here as it is there. Okay, I'm done. done off my roof.
What do you? You're quiet. I said, I mean, I explained this to Scott when I talked with him the other day. I should have had that discussion with him before that meeting because, I mean, I attended that same meeting that you're talking about, and him and I talked, and I came away with a different understanding, I guess is the way to put it. Kind of changed my opinion.
I make a motion for reconsideration.
Seconded.
Motion to make any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. So now,
Opposed.
oh, whoops, opposed, sorry. 3-2?
I make a motion to reappoint Scott Adams to the Board of Appeals for 3 years.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 3-2.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next up is the woodchucks.
I'm going to speak on that topic. We met with Barclay Shepherd and Bill Smith at the Public Works site, myself and Mike Alley, in regards to this. They had asked to be put on the agenda, but didn't clarify what they wanted to talk about at the time that we put them on the agenda. So then when we met at the Public Works lot, we discussed the parameters of a lease arrangement. So now we're actually trying to put that into more clarity and put it into print to present that to the selectmen at a future meeting. So we'll have more to come. I do want to bring up one issue with the Board of Selectmen that has come to light with the woodchucks, is that there's some turbulence within that group about who's in charge of that, and it's really making it difficult for Mike and I to discuss with the woodchucks the parameters of our arrangements with them on the Public Works lot, because on any given day there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different leaders. I just want to bring that up is if that's why it's slowing down the process, is that we're not really even sure who we're negotiating with most times. They're not a formalized group, so it really is the leader of the day.
Henry, put you on the spot because you've kind of represented the woodchucks for most of the time. Is there a way? I mean, you guys must meet occasionally, at least. I mean, as a group, not cutting wood, but just, is there any way that you guys can appoint a point person, whether it be you or whoever that is, that says, this is the one that's going to be dealing with Jim and or Mike? At least that way it gives him that one person, because it makes it easier, that's all.
I'm in total agreement with Jim that you need one person to either criticize or praise, whichever way it goes at a particular time. And I think part of this, Jim, lately is the fact that you were out of the area and with all this picking up to move things along. But there is a very logical way to do things. A follows B follows C. And you don't jump around and get insurance quotes before you even have a lease. So that's what I'm trying to deal with right now.
Henry, can you even get insurance if you're not organized?
Well, somebody in my group feels that we can.
Well, I know that when the woodchucks came to us 2 months ago, one of the things that we have recommended again is the fact that the woodchucks need to organize or serve under somebody's umbrella, so...
Well, you are the church, correct? Aren't you?
Well, we are affiliated with the human resources of the area. And we go to those meetings once a month when they hold them. And we are being fed information as to who needs wood, what, when, and where during the fall session.
But I thought at one point you fell under one of the church's umbrellas or something, or you could.
Well, I know they're working with the Community Resources Group, right, Henry? And that's Kit Sherrill and all of those folks. But I didn't know,
Kids are always out of their thing.
I mean, I'm sure there's nothing really worse than you talk to an organization and you tell Jim, absolutely, this is the way we want to go, and then all of a sudden someone else comes along and says, what are you thinking? I don't want to do that. That one person has to be, you got to have one person speaks for all of you.
Well, I think in the exuberance of youth, they
Now, the youngest
all
one,
wanna try
now wait a
something
minute,
else.
the youngest one you got's 50 odd.
still youth.
That's a child.
Comparably.
well, I think the easiest way to solve all of that would be to organize. And then you set up your hierarchy of officers, and then there wouldn't be, this person's telling everybody what to do this day, and this one's doing it this day, and there is that chain of command.
See, I don't appreciate somebody going to Mike without Jim's knowing about it and negotiating where something is gonna go. It needs to come through one focal point. And I have no problem with your idea, Joe.
Yeah, I'd hate to see inner turbulence do anything to hurt the
Also,
woodchucks.
believe me, I've been there.
And I would recommend to the board, and maybe it's just easier on our end to say, this is the person that we're gonna negotiate with, and you just funnel through him. And, you know, since we've established multiple years of trust with Henry, Henry possesses the fuel key that we did a contract with Henry for the woodchucks, and we've already established that trust. I would like to just work through Henry, but I don't want to upset the woodchucks group. It's obviously based on a lot of volunteerism.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak as a woodchuck?
Absolutely, just tell your name.
I'm Seth Barker, and I've been working with this group for the past year, and I don't know, what you might think is inner turbulence is something that works, okay? There's a number of people that keep a lot of things going on the ground. Henry makes all the contacts in terms of getting people together, organizationally, you know, Henry's the person. So I think it's just a matter, if I heard it right, turn my hearing aid up here, you know. If I heard it right, it's just a matter of having one person to deal with.
Yep.
And I don't see that as a problem at all with the woodchuck. It might mean that Henry would want to bring somebody along with him, depending on what the issue is, you know.
I thought you was volunteering to do it yourself for a minute.
What's that?
I thought you was volunteering to do it yourself for a minute.
No, I'm just, no.
He's volunteering to come with him.
Yeah. I'm the young muscle in the group. But, so I just wanted to say, you know, I pretty much, we had a nice meeting earlier on this week on the Commons here. You know, we didn't discuss single representative as an issue, but, you know, we discussed all the issues, I think. You know, if it's a matter of having one representative, I don't see that as a problem within the group. And
But are we naming the one representative as Henry?
well, I can't name, you know,
I think we can.
it would just, I think for now, if we don't like it, we'll just kick them out. That's fine.
Henry, I think it's easier because of the relationship you have to make you that one contact. That being said, for the 3 or 4 months that you're gone, it would be nice if you had a conversation amongst the woodchucks, okay? But still, I mean, for that time period, if you could find somebody and let Jim know who that person's going to be when you're gone, as a group, if you could all, that would make
And I
sense.
have no problem with that,
Okay.
because if I can't be there,
Right.
we do continue.
Yeah.
Right.
As we script the lease, we're gonna have, because the woodchucks aren't organized, we're gonna say who we're leasing with, and that has to be a single point too. So we should be consistent in that, you know.
So can we single lease with Henry, even though Henry's gone for a couple months out of the year, and then we have his responsible party for the 2 months that he's gone?
As long as you put in the parameters of the lease that essentially says we notify Henry when there's issues with the lease, and I'm sure Henry will leave us contact
Contact
information.
information.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we started talking about finding them a location outside of Public Works a couple of months ago, one of the conditions that we said is they had to get organized or get under an umbrella so that they are an organization because of the lease issues and things like that.
I would like to keep us as independent as we possibly can. And,
It's pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to file a 501c3 application with the state.
You don't even need to do a 501, that's an IRS designation, but you can just incorporate in the state.
that's a fundraiser.
That's like a 2 or 3 day ordeal.
Just something, and that way you have, that lease is with an organization rather than with you directly, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the lease is with Henry, could you make a legal case if somebody got hurt on that piece of property and it's in Henry's name, leased from the town, can they go back on Henry is my question.
Probably.
Yeah,
You
'cause
could
he's the one
have your
that's-
house appraised. and-
So, I mean, you don't, that's the last thing you want to do, Henry, and I mean, I know it's a good bunch of guys that have that, but you just never know. If you was organized, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
I would like to see the lease for the woodchucks because
Right.
we're all gonna disappear
Right.
down the road. And hopefully this organization will stay around. So there'll be new names and so forth.
So I would
So if
suggest,
you name it the Woodchuck Organization,
then just incorporate and be done with it. It's
Just
pretty easy.
Just incorporate, and you have to have one yearly meeting and elect officers, that's all.
There must be somebody in your group of woodchucks that's up, that could do that relatively easy for you.
I think they're all retired
Steve?
attorneys.
I think that if you saw Scott Adams, he probably knows the way to go.
There you go. You're right.
Yeah, or Tom Berry, I mean, there's a number of people that could do it
Yeah,
for you.
Chip.
He could figure out.
Chip,
all
there's
those
a number
guys.
of people that would probably do it fairly
I
inexpensive.
have no problem with that.
Okay. That would just
But
make it
that's
clear.
what we need is like you say, is a group, an incorporated group.
What happens when these side things go on, it takes energy away from the group because there's so much talking going on. And like for instance, when there was talk about moving to the playground,
Yeah.
I was against that from day one, but
Well, you need to sit down and get organized just once and incorporate, and then you can get insured, and then it's a done deal.
Right. That
And
may-
with an incorporation, you have to have one yearly meeting. You go in the lawyer's office and sit down, and this is a CEO, and this is a second in command, and bingo.
Sounds like the easiest route.
Steve? Yeah, another easy solution for them would be to formalize their relationship with Boothbay Community Resources. Have Boothbay Community Resources set them up as a separate subcommittee, and either they can elect a chair of their subcommittee on their own, or Boothbay Community Resources could appoint somebody. They can fall under Boothbay Community Resources for insurance, and possibly pay a small fee to put an additional rider on Boothbay Community Resources insurance.
Do
That
they-
way they won't have to do anything.
Do they carry insurance?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have some type of officer insurance at the very least.
I think,
when you get under the umbrella of organization, there's all kinds of restrictions that
Right.
they impose.
right, so
That's why I'd like to stay as
Just
independent as we can.
then incorporate and be done with it.
Yeah.
It would be easy.
If you're not gonna work under the Boothbay Community Resource, then you need to incorporate one or the other.
Right. There's enough lawyers in town that I'm sure would treat you very well.
I don't know, you could probably do it yourself. The state of Maine process is really easy. I mean, as long as you're not looking for that federal tax exemption, then that's the hard part.
Hopefully we can have something by September, if they can get incorporated and have a lease and,
I could have a lease relatively quickly. So the meeting that we had, we identified the boundaries of space that administration and our foreman are okay with, and the representatives of that day for the woodchucks were okay with, and we were going to essentially formalize that into a lease arrangement with lots of open spaces where we'd fill in the blanks later. I mean, I could have that soon.
so
We do not want to interfere with anything in public works. We've taken special care for that, so that we don't.
So as soon as you get incorporated, come back and see us.
Just so I understand, it sounds like there's two options. One is incorporating the other, possibly falling under the umbrella of community resources.
You're right.
Either
Those look like the two easiest way to organize.
Okay. If we come up with a third, or fourth, or whatever, do you want us to come back to you, or
Just work with Jim.
just go
Yep.
to Jim?
That's where we left the conversation last, is that we were gonna put together a plan and present it to the selectmen. Since then, I was asked to put the woodchucks on the agenda, so here they are. And you can see what this does to a meeting, is it throws an anchor out the window and slows down our meeting process.
I did not ask for this meeting.
No, no, you didn't.
See how things are
Yeah.
coming in from the side.
What makes you think
Because
we,
I want everything in place, then we present it to you and you go.
why would we blame you, Henry?
I got big.
Well, good luck. Next up is public comment. Fran.
Thanks. I'm here representing Rebuilding Together of Lincoln County today, and I'm one of their board members and their volunteer operations director. Over the last couple of years, the types of projects that we're doing are starting to grow bigger and a little more complex, and some of them are starting to require building permits. And we operate on a fairly good budget, and our administrative expenses run less than 1% of our fundraising, because nobody takes a paycheck, and an awful lot of things that we do on our own, we just donate. As we're starting to look at the need for more building permits, I thought I'd use Boothbay as my first town to approach, and then possibly shame some of the other towns. What I'd like to ask is that the town agree to waive building permit fees for any projects that we're doing. I just saw this at a permit that I pulled on Monday for a ramp and a deck that we're building for one of our clients. And a contractor is volunteering all his labor, and we're paying a couple of $1,000s in material. We spend anything from $15,000 to $22,000 a year on materials for jobs, both on Rebuilding Together Day and on other things that come up during the year. And if I can save a $40 or a $50 permit fee, that's 2 hours of what I pay my handyman for. So anyway, my request is that if we could waive building permit fees, I'd like to suggest that it be on a case-by-case basis with approval going through Jim rather than Dan on an individual basis, so that Dan isn't feeling any pressure from anything we're doing.
Well, Dan should bring it to Jim,
Right.
Yeah.
because Jim would need to bring it to us for waiving. You can't circumvent Dan.
I realize that. What I'm hoping, though, is that you give us an agreement for a blanket waiver of fees if Jim approves the project that I'm asking for.
But if we give Jim the authority, it wouldn't even have to come to us. I mean, you're not talking like where it's gonna be a lot. Wouldn't that be the easiest way to do it? It's just to give him, on a case-by-case basis, the authority to waive fees for Rebuilding Together?
Could, but I think it'd be cleaner if it came through the board.
I mean, I'm all for it either way. I mean, I don't really...
Yeah, one of the things that we run into a problem with is this particular case that we're working on. I got the application for aid late last week. I went out and I looked at the job. We found a contractor to do it, and pulled the permit, gave the contractor authority to buy materials, and it all fell in place in about 3 days. And even with you guys meeting twice a month, sometimes the need of some of the clients is fairly urgent. So I'd like to be able to circumvent delaying a client's need.
Well, you just,
wait for a meeting.
the wriggle around that is just to pay the permit fee, and then we just refund it.
That would work, Stephen.
I mean, that way you won't be held up and you'll get the same end result.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem fronting.
Just because,
fronting the money
yeah,
for it.
if we meet every 2 weeks, so that's as long as your $50 would be invested in the permit before it be refunded.
Yeah, I would look at it the same way as if we do poverty abatement. And it's the same sort of thing. You guys are dealing with very low income folks that need help, and I think they could be handled the same way.
Most of our clients have income of less than $12,000 a year. And, when they would use, and, the ones that we push off to May, on our May Rebuilding Together Day are ones that we can, but I get anything from 7 to 10 requests for emergency help through the year. And most of those, and they're split up pretty evenly between here, the harbor, and Southport. The needs that they have are usually almost immediate. A septic system is overflowed and needs a pump.
Just to be clear, we won't refund building permits you take out from Boothbay Harbor or South.
No, depending on what you guys do, I'll go down and I'll try to shame them.
I think you made note of that, Steve.
Yeah.
I think we can take it under advisement and look at it on a case-by-case basis. Whenever you guys go to Dan, he takes it to Jim, and Jim brings it to us.
I don't see why not.
Yeah. I mean, any permit you pull and pay the fee for, and then you want abatement for, just have it go through the channel, and at the most, within 2 weeks, you would have your money back.
I'm fine with that.
That's the cleanest way to do it.
Yeah. Can I borrow $50 from you on occasion, Steve?
Absolutely.
Wait a minute. No.
If I happen to have
No,
it.
I have no problem fronting fees.
I think it's a good thing what you guys do, so anything we can do to help.
And we're seeing more and more as these next years are coming on.
Good.
Under public comment, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ham back to the board. I saw Mr. Ham wearing his little hospital head set up, and it scarred my memory.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Hey, we just motion. Anybody want to give a motion to approve the minutes, the previous minute from 7/9/2014?
Second.
Motion's been made. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I'll abstain, I
Steve.
wasn't here.
Next up is reports, Jim.
In your packet is my written report. I'll allow you to take a moment to read or ask me questions, and while you do that, a couple more things that I just wanted to cover. State revenue sharing is a little bit concerning to us. We received our first check for July, and it's a third of what would ordinarily been state revenue sharing, and the answer we get from Maine Revenue Services is that's because of the bill to cut revenue, and apparently it gets cut in the first month and replenished in the second month, but I will see how that happens in the second month. But as of the first month, we get a third of what we would ordinarily get.
Get that monthly or quarterly?
Get that monthly, and it's a formula. I had mentioned to the selectmen that McKed was operating a SALT program with GPCOG this year. We just got the results literally a few minutes ago, and I'm pretty happy to report that we're going to save. We got a bid of $56.93 compared to last year's bid of $62.62. We're going to save about $3,000 in salt this year. So I was pretty excited about that, and I remember making a big deal out of it at the last meeting that we had. I'm always concerned about everything that has to do with money, aren't I? We got our instructions for the LRAP program, is the Local Road Assistance Program, and we're going to see a decrease this year. I don't know where I put it. But essentially, the decrease puts us at where we were before they kicked in the LRAP program. Originally, it used to be called Europe, Urban Rural Initiative Program. And the reason why I bring it up is because when they switched from the Europe program to the LRAP program, they got rid of what they called the hold harmless level. they said, the hold harmless level said they could never dip below a point. Well, we were at the hold harmless level, so we were pretty confident that we were always gonna get that amount. We bumped up the first year of LRAP, we're back down to where we were a second year of LRAP, and I'm just concerned of where third year and fourth year is gonna be. The last thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that Mr. Burnham asked me to get a legal response on the pre-K program as it pertains to the CSD. That is in your information packets and in your... I'm sorry, it was not in your information packets, it was distributed in the mailbox.
There was an add-on.
I don't think they meet in the summertime, do they?
I think they're...
Trustees?
Yeah. Is it trustees or the school board?
Trustees.
Trustees.
Do you want me to explain this, or just...
We probably ought to for at least the viewing public.
So, after the annual meeting, Mr. Burnham asked me to look into the legal process of authorizing a pre-K program. So you can see the email that I sent to Sally, and essentially I was saying this is how I interpret it. I interpret the charter, and if you read the charter, section 18A is the authority of the district to expand the school, and then school is defined, K through 6, and then there's expansion protocol to go through 12. And my interpretation is that the CSD is not authorized to expand the pre-K program within the body of the charter. Therefore, a charter amendment is necessary for a new program. A case can be made that pre-K is a form of kindergarten, and therefore expansion should minimally go through the outlined process of expansion. This is done by a vote of town meeting and not within the authority of the trustees. So then Sally responds, based on our review of the CSD charter, we think it is reasonable interpretation of the same that the Board of Trustees does not have the authority to unilaterally establish a public pre-K program. This is because Section 2 only provides the Board of Trustees with the authority necessary to carry out the purpose of the charter, which is to organize, maintain, and conduct a community school. However, the term school, like I discussed, is defined to include K through 12 per the sections that I had mentioned. So I'm reading on, is that the private and special law must be amended by the legislature to provide authority to expand the definition of schools. So that's how you'd go about it. Second, Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor must vote at a town meeting to enact such an expansion. So that's the legal answer.
She's been running this program for 3 years, illegally. And if they're gonna open up a charter. If you guys open up a charter, we should get some negotiations so that we try to get the price so it's more equitable. So the town of Boothbay be holding, you know, 'cause we're paying the biggest share of that school now.
Right.
And it's, you know, I mean, it's all right years ago when the price
It was the other way.
Yeah, the price was way down too compared to what it is today.
I mean, the reality of it is, I mean, if you took this to them now, I mean, we know from past experience that they're gonna say, oh, well, we made a mistake, we didn't know. Excuse me. But I'm just, like, I mean, this was 6 months ago when we went there about the tennis courts. And, I mean, you gotta take them at their word, I suppose, that they didn't know. But,
Yeah, but Eileen knows, and she even stated to me that there was looking into change the charter, and she hasn't done it.
all right, have they, I don't know, I haven't seen any of them to ask if they've looked into doing it.
I haven't seen nothing in the paper about.
No, but,
Because they gotta come to the town, you know.
oh, it'll be an open process when they do it. And the last conversation I had with one of their trustees, I won't mention his name because I won't put him on the spot, but
Why not?
they were going to discuss, he was going to bring up opening up the charter because, I mean, some of the points that we had made the last time we met with them made perfect sense to them. And that's the last I heard about it. And this was probably 2 months ago, I'm guessing.
If I was the administrator of the school, why would I open the charter if you're not running it according to the charter anyway? I mean, we've already identified 2 very clear violations of the charter. If they're not operating within the grassroots document of their organization, what good is it? It's useless.
Do they meet in the summertime, Douglas? Don't they normally take summers off?
Well, yeah, maybe 1 month, I think, that's all. Maybe July.
First Wednesday in the month.
And maybe August, I don't know, but I can't remember. But they only meet once a month.
Right.
And that's the
All of this stuff can be-
And that's the first Wednesday of the month.
All these things can be corrected by opening the charter and,
Yeah, I know,
Changing.
but it has to go through legislature.
oh yeah, I understand
And
that.
And 2 towns gotta do it. But
I don't think there's anybody on that board that don't agree that charter needs. No, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You may be wrong.
what did John Burlett tell you?
He told me that it was his interpretation that that it didn't matter. They were working close enough. And
I mean, that charter is law.
And state law.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember this patent in the state. I mean, that charter is, that's, you know, you can't just keep ignoring the charter, which she's been doing, she's doing it, you know. This is the 2nd time.
No, I know that they had talked to us at one point in time saying that a lot of these things doesn't have to necessarily open the charter, but they could amend the charter. Is this something that they may have amended without us knowing about it?
amendment of the charter is the same process as changing the charter. You would have to go through an act of the legislature to change the special and private law that created the CST.
And then it would have to go to town meeting to be approved.
Right.
Oh,
By both
but
towns.
probably not town meeting, the meeting that they have down there.
No.
It depends.
Supposed to go to town, but I think
It's up to how you design the new law that replaces this law on who, if there's a local review of the law. So it all depends is the answer.
Which I still think that we need to get back to each town voting by secret ballot rather than a hand vote in the elementary school
Yes.
gymnasium.
Yeah.
I mean,
We've found that ourselves, that we get more turning out during the day to vote
Right,
privately.
absolutely.
and as a local administrator, that for the last 5 years, we have not increased our operating budget 1 cent. It's a little frustrating when we're working with these very tight parameters to then see the other organizations that operate on our tax levy not working within the rules.
I can't argue.
So what next? Do we want to meet with
So,
them?
so what is our options anyway? All you can do, you have to turn around and sue the Board of Trustees, right?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you wanted to take a legal proceeding, then yes, that's how you would go through it legally. I mean, obviously,
That's worst case scenario.
diplomacy is always the best
That's
first
worst
option.
Case scenario. They don't, I mean, she just.
I don't disagree, but when you're paying 66% of the budget, we're suing ourselves.
Well, I can't help that, but, I mean.
I would rather try to work it out
No.
diplomatically. And I guess one other question that I would have would be, we pay the school budget monthly? Is that how we do it?
We do, but that's not in the charter.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but we do monthly. So in theory,
Yes.
if they are running a program that is not legal according to the charter, we could withhold that amount of funding for pre-K. I mean, I'm not saying we would, but I'm just saying we could in theory. And there is no assessment authority because it's not illegal.
Then what are they going to sue you for that money? I mean,
Yeah?
because they have legally appropriated the money. They've legally appropriated the money for an illegal expansion of the program. So
I think the easiest way is diplomatically, only so you're not spending money.
It's 50 grand.
yeah, in a multi-million-dollar organization, somebody ought to be able to read the charter and interpret it.
They don't have assessment authority like the county does, right?
Yes, I think they do.
No.
No. So withholding money could be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the charter says that we're supposed to just pony it all up, and we've negotiated out this monthly installment, which it seems like every time we talk about the charter, administration from the school says, well, we'll make you go back to paying it all up front, which is like, how is that going for the taxpayer?
Again, back in the 50s when that charter was set up, that lump sum payment was peanuts.
Yeah, right.
Lump sum payment now would be 6 million? Big difference.
$5.3 million.
Well, that would be an interesting side note, and I don't know if you could even pull that up at some point, but it would be interesting to see when that school system was set up, what their budget was, so what that lump sum would be. I'm sure it couldn't have been nothing.
The only time you can have a discussion diplomatically if both entities are on the same level, and we need to find out how that's done, because I have no clue.
Could we request them to come to our next selectmen's meeting or go to theirs? The thing is, I don't think they meet in August. I vaguely remember reading something saying that they were off until September.
Yeah, probably are.
So, I mean, I just think that rather than make this a negative, you make it a positive and say, this is one more reason you need to open up, you need to redo the charter.
We need to fix it. Nobody
Yes.
needs to be punished or
I mean, we can sit there, right.
fined. We need to fix it.
But this is another reason why I'm sure there's many things, if you was closer to it, I'm sure you could find many things that they're doing that's not in their charter. And that's no slight to them, it just needs to be fixed. That's all. I mean, that's all we're all after, is to do it correctly.
Right.
I mean, if we found out that Jim was not doing his job correctly in one way or the other, we would correct that.
You'd fire me first.
Well, yeah. And then we would hire someone that did. but-
Fix it all.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think that that's asking, I mean, if, we've gone to great lengths, Jim has, in the last year or two, to bring the town in line with all the accounting principles and everything. I mean, that's what we expect. We would expect, considering our budget's what, a fifth, a sixth of the school budget? I don't think that that's asking too much.
I mean, it's not asking a lot to ask people to do their job on a little more professional.
Like I say, if you don't do it negatively and you keep it positive, I think that maybe I'm being naive, but we don't know until we ask.
Right.
So,
Well, when you make changes, it's quite an undertaking, like we found when we change codes and stuff like that. When you get together and you form a committee and you talk things over and you decide what the changes are, it's a tough process.
It's not gonna be cheap.
Change is difficult, but avoiding change because you can
Makes
just
it-
go around it
makes
is
it
not
worse,
right
yeah.
either.
Right.
well, if Jim, let me just phrase it a different way. If we was asking advice on how to do something, and Jim says, oh yeah, you can do that, and we found out later we couldn't, wouldn't we be a little mad?
Upset. We'd be upset.
So, I think that we ought to request them to come to our meeting, unless they're meeting in August, which I don't think they are.
I'd recommend September, just because of the fact that we don't know if they meet in August.
Okay. Maybe over the winter they can open up the charter and get going on it. That would be the best case scenario. I'm sure they'll be able to find the money to pay for the lawyer.
Just could expand the legal program.
Yeah.
So you want to meet with them in September at their meeting or our meeting?
Well, it may need to be a completely separate meeting. I mean, if they come to our meeting, it's gonna be a long, the meeting's gonna be dragged out.
It would be nice to have just
And
a
the same
joint,
thing at theirs.
a joint
Unless-
meeting.
Workshop?
Yeah,
I mean,
a workshop kind of thing, yeah.
A special meeting between the two boards.
Nothing formal. I think we invite Boothbay
With-
Harbor as well.
With a workshop, inviting the Boothbay Harbor Selectmen also, yeah.
Wait a second, are we excluding them? Should we be inviting Southport as well?
They're not part of the district.
Oh, that's right, that's
They're
right.
not part.
Never mind.
Sorry.
It's just the two. So I think we invite Boothbay Harbor Selectmen, us, and have it at probably at the schools, the most mutual. I mean, really, it's neutral. Not here, not in the harbor. I don't care where it is. I just think that we all would be on the
John
same
invited
page.
too?
It's a workshop, he can come, anybody can.
No, I'm specifically invited.
Oh.
I'll start putting it together.
That's a job in half.
Is that all you have for reports?
Yes.
Next is old business, which is the regional EMA position.
So Chuck had mentioned at the last meeting that we wanted to have a further discussion with this. I distributed an email earlier in the last couple of weeks about the response that we got to that. I attended a meeting with Tom Wooden, the Boothbay Harbor town manager, their fire chief, our fire chief, and Todd Harda from Lincoln County EMA. And essentially we discussed the difficulties with attracting somebody to do the regional EMA position. We told them essentially that, you know, we appointed Dicky to our town EMA position because the best person in town to do emergency management is already doing it. So at this point in time, there's nobody to take that position of regional EMA. I think in Boothbay Harbor sent us a kind of a termination agreement to terminate the agreement, but I'm reluctant to sign the agreement. I'm just more inclined to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we send a letter according to the regional agreement that we signed in 2010, stating that the town is no longer interested in participating.
If I remember right, when we set that up, it allowed us to pull out.
Yeah. There's a pull-out clause, and all it says is you have to send a letter. And that's what I'm recommending, is we just send our letter saying it no longer makes sense to participate in the regional EMA. I think between the three fire chiefs, we have it covered.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? None? Under old business, just curious, the banking RFP, when you've sent that out?
I did send it out. I
When's it cut
adjusted
off?
the date because it went out a little bit late. I can't remember the date that I put on return. I'll get that to you, though.
I'm just curious more than anything. I mean, is it probably a month's time or something?
Yeah, I think that's what I set up, is about a month's time. I figured when we get close to there that I'll bring it back up to you guys for consideration before we actually start looking through them.
Move on to new business. Malloy, is that how you pronounce it?
Malloy, yeah.
Malloy resignation from the planning board. We'll have the letter, I think, right?
Chris Malloy, a recent appointee within the last year or so to the planning board, has resigned via email.
I move we accept the resignation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? And thank him. All those in favor? MMA Executive Committee ballot. I can't help but notice after our concern last year with MMA's ballot, we have a ballot where you choose three and there's three on the ballot.
Oh.
Just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to make a motion that we nominate no one.
Second.
Any discussion?
It's obvious that they're not listening to us.
Yes.
I actually.
And I mean no disrespect to any of the applicants, because that isn't the purpose at all,
No.
but come on, guys.
Didn't you, I mean, I had this discussion with Jim right before the meeting when because I know, put you on the spot for a minute, but you're on the executive committee now, and didn't you say they have made some changes?
Yeah, you have to remember quite a few months ago, they sent a response to us stating that they had reviewed it, they had put their due diligence in, that they were not going to list multiple people because they felt like the nomination committee process works for the organization. But they have put in a new process that when they announce who the nomination committee put forward, that then you can nominate another name. And if you get so many people that participate in nominating that person, like, so say we wanted Dale, and Southport did, and Boothbay Harbor did, and Edgecombe did, then he would get on the slate too. But nobody took advantage of that in the last round.
But with that being in there, someone from Boothbay or Boothbay Harbor or Southport that wanted to do it, how do you get you would really have to be one heck of a connected person in order to get them to nominate you too, not knowing, you know what I mean? Whereas if you're on this, all of a sudden you look at this and says, Dale Harmon, I think he'd be a great, there's a big difference, nominated versus being on here.
It's having dealt with different organizations in the last couple of years and seeing how organizations like to promote from within without looking outside.
Really?
You need to look outside too, because sometimes there's good candidates out there.
Agreed.
I mean, let's face it, these are hand-picked people. There's no way you make me believe any different.
And well, don't confuse this process with a democratic process. I mean, that's the first mistake.
Right, it's not a democratic.
It's not a democratic process. It's how to keep a professional board of trustees for a membership organization. So it's different, and it contrasts very much with the democratic process.
But when you wanted to be on that, we sent in a nomination form. They interviewed you to get you on a ballot. Not interviewed you, I mean, your membership didn't interview, the sitting board picking their replacement interviewed you. So I guess I don't quite understand how that's in the best interest of the membership.
Well, my biggest problem with this whole process is the fact that we weren't the only town that told them the process needed to change. And no disrespect to you, Jim, because I appreciate what you're doing, but it seemed to me we got a form letter back from them, and nothing has changed.
You know, maybe if we keep bringing it up, maybe more towns will jump on board.
I wasn't on the executive committee or even elected at the point that they entertained the request from Boothbay to look into it, so I can't tell you what happened there. But I can tell you that now participating in the executive committee meetings, that it's a very solid organization. And when they say due diligence, oh my goodness, it's due diligence.
And I'm sure it is.
And they have insurance funds that are in the tens of millions of dollars, and they need to be very protective of the people that they put in place. So I can understand, but I'm not saying that the board's position is incorrect. I'm just saying there's a lot more to it.
Using that argument, though, you take a city like Bangor or Portland that's got millions of dollars in reserve. Their town mayor or whatever don't handpick the councilors. You know what I mean? The people do. The people you represent. So, I mean, I don't know. We could
You're
argue.
talking about a democratic organization and a membership organization.
Yeah. One being confused with the other.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's a membership organization that represents democratic organizations.
It is a little unusual.
Does the city of Portland and the city of Bangor belong to MMA?
They do.
Bangor did not at one point, and then they chose to join because of a legal thing that they wanted to jump onto 6 or 8 months ago, if I remember correctly.
Well, I think that the legal thing convinced them that they had made the wrong decision. Because I think the undervalued portion of MMA is the lobbying portion. I mean, how often do we lobby for hundreds of bills that interest us? Now, we usually find one or two that are really important, but it's the ones that are in the weeds that they fight for. And I think that's a really important piece of MMA.
Oh, they serve a great purpose. I just think that they need to be a little more transparent. I mean, we've preached transparency for the last 2 years, but yet here's an organization that isn't.
You know, they're very transparent. These are the people you can vote for. Vote.
Right. All right, Chuck made the motion. It's been seconded to not fill out a nomination form. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Sorry to put you on the hot seat when
honestly, every single person that represents a town is in the same position as me, and they're really good at saying, this, you know, my allegiances to my town come first, and then my allegiances to the organization come second.
Maybe it would make sense to send that back blank with a letter reiterating our displeasure.
I'd be okay with it.
At least they'll know that we got it.
Yeah, it wasn't an accident, but we didn't just get lost in the mail.
Right.
While we're on the subject of MMA, there's also that letter that I.
Oh, right, yes.
I don't know if you want to bring that up then.
Has everyone read that letter that we had requested Jim to write last?
I'll make a motion that Steve sign the letter that's been drafted to be sent to MMA.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Do you want to just use this one, or do you want to use special paper or anything?
No, that's fine.
I think they deserve special paper.
We'll get a form letter next meeting. It's the annual time to do the single signature warrant again for the payroll.
I'll make a motion to sign it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Done. Something that's not on the agenda is a comp plan appointment.
Spoke with Rosemary Barrett. I had mentioned at the last meeting that I'd like to ask her. And she beat me to the punch. She said now that there's a vacancy and she can, so she really wants to participate. She's been showing up to all the meetings. I think it's a great appointment.
I'll make that nomination.
Okay.
Second.
Motion be made, seconded to appoint Rosemary Barrett to the comp plan. Any discussion? All those in favor? No more new business?
Nope.
Public comment? Public is last. Dan, you're sitting back there real entertained. No?
I asked Dan to be here just out of contingency, so.
I'll entertain a motion to sign the warrants upon review.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor? I ain't asking for discussion on that.